All right, let's give a big round of applause for the Yamasu Drum Group, everybody. We want to thank them for coming down, and we want to thank all of you guys for joining us today for the grand opening of Phase 2 of Fort Missoula Regional Park. How awesome is this? Yeah! It's a beautiful new park, beautiful Phase 2 of Fort Missoula. We're so happy you guys are here to celebrate with us. We're going to be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony shortly. We've got a few speakers that we'll introduce. Just want to remind you guys that the rest of the evening, please go around, check out all the different vendors and organizations that came to provide an activity for this event today. We want to thank them for coming out. Most of all, we want to thank our sponsors of this event. Our main sponsor, Jackson Contractor Group. They built this park, you guys. Let's give them a big round of applause. Go around the park and check out everything we've got in the softball fiveplex. We've got some fun family games and lawn games. Be sure to check out Home Plate Grill and grab some food. And head down to the greens, the lawn games area, and the courts, the tennis and pickleball area. Thank you again for being here. I'd like to introduce, and I want you guys to all give a huge round of applause for our director, Donna Gockler.
Welcome to Fort Missoula Regional Park. We're so happy to share this with you. It's been an ongoing dream and vision for well over 20 years, and certainly not possible without all of the residents of Missoula County, the Friends, and many, many others. Tonight, Gene Curtis is going to be our MC with the Board of County Commissioners. And we have a lineup of speakers for you. And what I would like to do to kick us off is invite the land group, DJ&A, Oz Architects, ACE, and the entire design team, Jackson Construction, Knife River, and the construction team. If you want to join us up here in front of the playground, that would be great. None of this is possible without a team, and some of those team members that have been here for us all along, in addition to our friends, many of them in the audience, county and city park board members, but some of our staff. Ever since the 2014 general obligation bond passed, our staff has been full-time on creating that what showed up on a piece of paper into something that you could play at, enjoy, and meet other folks at. And so I'd also like some of our staff to come up, in particular Neil Miner, Jesse Schrenbest, and Ryan Uris. These guys have been out here tirelessly since day one, and so I want them to also join us. So contractors, design team, and Gene. Ryan wanted me to also mention we had an additional sponsor, Oz Architects, so thanks, Oz.
Well, we ordered this weather special for today. It's a little warmer than I ordered, but it's nice out here. So I'm Gene Curtis, one of your county commissioners. One of the first things that I got to do when I was elected was be part of the team that looked at what was out here and figured out what we would like to have here. I have a little bit, it's interesting, I happened to find on my desk this Field of Dreams envelope that was brought to me by the Friends of Fort Missoula Regional Park when they asked us to consider putting this on the ballot for the voters. I think I'll give you just a little bit of history. So the voters in 1995 voted to adopt an open space bond, and some of that money was used to buy the city's portion, which we hope that you never even have to think about whether you're in a city park or a county park because it's a regional park. But the city added 100 acres to what the county already had here. So this was all part of, as you know, Fort Missoula at one time. I remember one day when it dawned on me that we were in the target range area, and target range was because they used to shoot at targets here, and I'd never connected it, didn't ever think of it until that was pointed out to me. In 2001, we adopted, both the city and the county adopted a plan to develop this park. but we thought it would take us forever because we knew that we would only be able to do little pieces at a time. In 2002, JTL, which is now Knife River, gifted 82 acres to the city. That transfer hasn't happened yet, but as you know, it's where the gravel pit is, over toward the river. So that'll be added on at some point. So then in 2002, there was a countywide ballot for developing Fort Missoula Regional Park, but it didn't pass. And so in 2012 is when the folks from Fort Missoula, Friends of Fort Missoula Regional Park, so I know that some of those folks are here tonight. John Utner, John O'Connor, Dr. Caldwell, they came forward and said, you know, we're really willing to talk to the community about what this could be. And I love that their folder that they handed us said Field of Dreams. And if you look, we really have lots of fields of dreams here. We have fields that have softball, we have fields that have soccer, we have fields that are full of playgrounds, we have fields that are ready for pickleball. They aren't really fields, but you know, they're in the middle of a field. I think the unique thing that I'm really proud of is that this is in a historical section of Missoula. It is a Fort Missoula Regional Park that's over there. You'll hear from Tony pretty soon, but this is not only fields of dreams, it's fields of history and fields of old memories, and now we'll create new memories. But this has been, of course, important to our tribal friends since time immemorial. And part of what's in this park that I hope you'll notice is there's an area where we have replanted the bitterroots. This used to be a place where the tribal folks, and Tony can talk more about this, used to harvest bitterroots. And so it was important for us to recognize that. Again, this park will benefit our kids, our economy, our community. We've already hosted state tournaments. We've had folks from other states, we've had folks from other countries be here and take advantage of it. I'm really happy to be here today to open the second section, and I will now hand off to Gwen, who is here to represent the City Council. So Gwen Jones. Thanks, Gwen.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gwen Jones. I'm the Vice President of the Missoula City Council. I'm so happy to be here, and thanks to everybody for coming out. I can't begin to thank all of the partnerships that went into creating this, but I can tell you in the 2.5 years I've been on City Council, as the Parks Department has come in and updated us, it has given me a little peek into the huge amount of work that has gone into creating this beautiful park. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to touch on just a couple of topics. The first is the economic impact that this park will have on Missoula. I wanted to take a step back a little bit. Montana is a big state, and we have a very small population. And what this means, if you have a kid that does sports, past the first couple of years of grade school, is you got to get in the car to drive to find the game. Because we have small populations, there's only so much to play in one place. This is not a bad thing. Sometimes your kid talks to you in the car as you're driving somewhere. Frankly, Montana is a beautiful state to drive through. And it also toughens them up. When you tell your kid, well, the tournament's in Billings, go get packed, got to get on the road, and they don't even flinch, you know you have created backbone. This is good. But you know what? I think it's time for people to start driving to Missoula. And we can do that now. Because before, we never had the facilities to compete, to put on a soccer tournament on the scale that this place can do it now. State soccer tournaments, Montana lacrosse championships, rugby, softball, we can field this now. And you know what? People love driving to Missoula. It's a beautiful area surrounded by mountains. These are the best facilities, hands down, in the entire region. And people love coming here, and they like to shop in Missoula. So everybody has been waiting. I know Becky Goodrich is here. Think of all of the lacrosse tournaments we drove to across this state and out of state, and finally, it can be here now. So the economic impact is huge. We will be pulling people from Spokane, Idaho, all of Montana, and yes, they even come up from Jackson Hole. So they come, they stay in hotels, they eat, they shop, huge economic impact. So this park is going to pay for itself. Trust me. Second thing I wanted to talk a little bit about before I hand it off is social equity. This park is fantastic in that, as with parks everywhere, you don't have to pay to come. Anybody can come here, and we have so many different user groups that will come here. People who want to walk their dog or take their dog to the park, all of the softball people, all of the athletics, soccer, lacrosse, rugby, and all of the fields. We have playgrounds for kids. We have a prescriptive trail for when doctors say you need to walk a mile every day. Margaret, get out there, here's your prescription, and they do it because we've got that set up now. And people interact, they meet each other. I can't tell you how many friends we've made over the years at parks. So in terms of social equity, this is where everyone can come and mingle, and it's a fantastic thing. We also have a park that was built above and beyond ADA, current ADA levels. And we have some fantastic features such as this playground behind me that is all abilities and inclusive. And I'm going to pass this over to Anna Margaret Goldman, Director of Montech, because this is her wheelhouse. Thanks, everyone.
Anna Margaret Goldman, the Director of Montech, the State Assistive Technology Program. I'd first like to recognize Trish Sanderson. Trish Sanderson, can you wave? So here she is right here. She is the artist of the Enchanted Forest, which is behind me. And her goal for this project was to design an unconventional, abstract, free play structure that will inspire imaginative, creative, open-ended play and allow children to interpret the space in their own way. And it's been really fun standing here, seeing people interact and play in that space. So that is so amazing, Trish. Thank you. As the director of Montech, we help people with disabilities statewide with the tools and technology they need for living, working, and playing. And throughout my work in the state, I hear a lot about the challenges that people with disabilities face in our state, trying to find accessible recreation opportunities and accessible options to interact with their neighbors and their friends, places where they can play, places where they can get outdoors, and places where they can recreate. We are incredibly fortunate that Parks and Recreation and our voters have prioritized inclusive play and recreation in Missoula. This public investment is so important. This inclusive and adaptive playground behind me at Fort Missoula fosters community and healthy activity. By playing together, children can appreciate the differences between people and respect the experience of others. This playground has something for all children and all abilities. And what I don't think we give enough credit for is everyone benefits when children of all abilities can access and play together. So it is such an honor for me to welcome the Phase 2 and the inclusive playground into the park and to our community. We are so fortunate to have an amazing resource in our backyard. So thank you, Parks and Recreation, and thank you, voters, for making this dream a reality for so many people in our community. Next, I'd like to welcome Deb Franzen, who's the Regional Director for U.S. Senator Don Tester. Deb.
Thank you, Anna Margaret, and thank all of you. Senator Tester, sorry he can't be here today. He asked me to bring you this message. Thank you for inviting me to share a few words, and congratulations on the Phase 2 grand opening of Fort Missoula Regional Park. Today marks the end of a 4-year joint mission between the city and the county to revitalize Fort Missoula. As a result of this public investment, folks in Missoula now have even more space to be outside with their families, play games, host picnics and tournaments, and enjoy everything that Western Montana has to offer. I want to especially thank the leadership of the Missoula County Parks, Trails and Open Lands, Missoula Parks and Recreation, Let's Move Missoula, the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula, Rocky Mountain Museum of Military History, and the many other organizations who worked so hard to make these improvements to Fort Missoula. But most importantly, we wouldn't be here today without Missoula taxpayers and their decision to ensure that future generations continue to have access to the outdoors. Regardless if it is investing in our city parks like this or increasing public access to our unmatched public lands, I will always defend Montana and our outdoor way of life. That's why I'm relentlessly fighting to fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund to ensure that Montanans have every tool needed to increase access so folks can hunt, hike, fish, float, and bike in Western Montana. Thank you again for being here today to celebrate the next chapter in Fort Missoula's storied history. Please keep up the great work, and as always, stay in touch. Sincerely, John Tester, United States Senator. Thank you.
We have a couple more speakers, but I had a little bit of a surprise acknowledgement that I wanted to make. You know, parks are like your living room or your dining room table at home. This is where we come together as a community to share those special moments in our life. And our forefathers and mothers, our grandparents, our parents, siblings, we all play together, come together, meet each other, and make a community a much better place to live. And we have a couple of folks in the audience tonight who have been part of this dream for a really long time. And I do want to assure, there's so many of you. We will be having a VIP event later this fall to recognize everybody, but I had a surprise one for tonight. I wanted to recognize Barbara Evans. She was a past county commissioner. Barbara was one of those individuals early in my career who helped guide me through the politics of working in government, and that's really important in decreasing the divide and bringing people together, which is what Parks is all about. And so we from Parks and Recreation and County Parks, Trails, and Open Lands want to pay special homage, recognition, and appreciation to Barbara Evans for her role in her early vision work to make Fort Missoula Regional Park a reality.
All right, thank you, Donna, and thank you, Barbara. Next up, we'd like to introduce Matt Lautzenheiser, the Executive Director of the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out to help us celebrate the grand opening of the East Phase here of the Fort Missoula Regional Park. I know this has been a long time coming, and I'm incredibly excited to see this phase open. In the future, it'll be enjoyed by Missoulians, Missoula County residents, and of course our regional sports travelers. On behalf of the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula, which is one of our longer-term residents here at the fort, I'd just like to say how happy I am to be here and to see this come to fruition. This spot has a great history. It's got a history of views, it's got a history as a fort. If you look around you today, you can kind of see why the Army chose this spot nearly 140 years ago for their fort. It has some of Missoula's most stunning views. It also is an important location. You can't hear me? Okay. Sorry, I just need to keep this up on. Sorry about that. So, in addition to the views here at Fort Missoula, which we have a great deal of, there's a rich history of sports here at Fort Missoula. The original soldiers here played organized baseball. During World War II, the internees here, the Italians, played bocce ball and also soccer. Also, the Japanese that were here even took the time to construct a rudimentary golf course. So as we move forward and we look to all the different tournaments and things that are going to happen here at Fort Missoula, I just hope that everybody takes a moment to reflect on those groups that came before us. the groups that created the rich history here at the fort, beginning with Native Americans, moving on to the frontier fort folks, from them to the thousands of CCC men who were trained here in the 1930s, and then of course to the 2,200 men who were held here at Fort Missoula during World War II as part of the Alien Detention Center. So I guess I want to congratulate Missoula City, of course those folks in Missoula County that made this happen, as well as the input from the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, because they've created a park that's not only something that'll help us as we move forward to the future, but they've also created a park that truly honors the past here at Fort Missoula. So thank you to all those groups. Well, and at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Tony Inkashola. Tony is with the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes.
Thank you very much for inviting me here this evening to be part of this great event. It's indeed an honor to come back and look at the place that we first started. We dedicated the one down there. But over the years, there's been so many changes. Every day is a change. And going back, and if you can imagine, try to imagine, before they had lights, before they had light poles, before they had these awnings, there was a time when there was a lot of teepees out here. Before they had the grass, before they had nice green grass here, there was a carpet of bitterroot that was here. This was one of the very important areas for the Salish and Kalispel people who came here annually, especially in springtime, to harvest the bitterroot. The bitterroot was carpeted throughout here, all through most of Missoula, through Shopko, all the way over to the University of Montana. And that was a very important area for us here. There's been a lot of changes since then. And those changes are always changes that we try to plan for our future generations, for our children, our grandchildren, and those yet to come. Those are the important jobs that we as people do today. You know, there are times that I like to think that we'll be here forever, but we know we won't be. There's a time that our job will be done, and hope that we can pass on those jobs, those values that we have that would pass down to us to the next generation. Over the years, there's been a lot of changes. I always like to mention that before we were able to stand here, who do you think was here before us? And that's the animals who prepared this land for us, animals who gave us place names, animals who gave us a lot of different things here. All of the things that we know today, we learned from the animals. We just didn't arrive and know everything. We had to learn from somebody in some place, and in our case, it was the animals. So we have to be thankful not only for what we have, but for those animals and things, all living things that have provided us over the years. And today, as we look, we can see our future generations. A lot of good people have come out of Montana. A lot of good athletes, a lot of good citizens have come out of Montana. And it starts like a place like this. It starts in a place where people can get together, where children can learn the skills of being a person. Believe it or not, you not only get to learn how to be a good athlete, but you also learn how to be a great human being, a good citizen of this great state that we live in. We are very fortunate to be here, but I always like to remember, before there was a state, before there was a county, before there was the United States, there was Indian nations here. And we will always be here. We will always enjoy, we will always protect and preserve for future generations. It's never for us, it's always for future generations. And this evening I want to thank all of you for allowing me to be part of this great event, because as I stand up here, I don't represent myself, I represent my people, I represent my children, my grandchildren, and most of all, I represent my ancestors, those ancestors who have provided and given me everything that we have today, everything that I know today. And so with that, I want to thank you. And again, the changes, if you will, think about it. There's been a lot of things. We went through things like our lives have changed, the introduction of firearms, the black ropes, the fur trade, the railroad, Stevens Treaty, gold mining, boarding schools, allotment acts, reorganization acts. So many things have happened to the people and so many changes. But we still are able to come together on an event like this to ensure that our future generations have a place to enjoy life and to learn the values that were passed on to us. Thank you very much. I only had 5 minutes, so.
Hey, thank you, Tony, and thank you to all our speakers for coming out tonight. So at this time, we want to invite any staff, contractors, and any kids that want to be part of the actual ribbon cutting. Please come on up. All of our speakers as well, please come on and join us to cut the ribbon and officially kick off Phase 2 of Fort Missoula Regional Park. Don't be shy, guys. Come on, all the contractors, all our staff, all our speakers, any kiddos that want to be part of the ribbon cutting. This is a monumental event, everybody, just as all of our speakers have said. Over 20 years in the making for this moment right here. So come on and join us behind that ribbon. Get in nice and close, everybody. We're all friends here at Fort Missoula Regional Park.
Come on to this side.
All the kids! All kids!
All right, wonderful. Everybody squeeze in there. Adults in the back, come on up. Come on up towards that ribbon. Let's everybody squeeze together.
Okay, everybody can hold the ribbon. Help hold the ribbon. Good job. Just hold it by your
All right, everybody on those ends, squeeze in tight there. All right, kiddos, I want you guys to help me out. I want you to do a countdown for Miss Curtis there. Everybody, we're gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you, everybody, and once again, please welcome the Yamasu Drum Group to play an honor song for Fort Missoula Regional Park.
Tradition that we always have to sing an honor song to honor all of those in the event that we have tonight. As they sing this honor song, it's an honor of everyone who had participated in making this evening possible. It's an honor song to ourselves, to our families, and also to our ancestors. Honor songs are our names, so that we forget those who came before us. So let's go to
And big thanks to all of you for coming out and celebrating with us. We've got a lot of great activities out here tonight. Stop in and see all the fun activities on the Fiveplex. We've got some soccer, football, lawn games. Dick Missoula's over there playing some lawn volleyball. We got a kickball game that's starting on field 2, and you can take in a Missoula Softball Association game on fields 3 or 4. Also head on down to the courts where you can play tennis and pickleball. That's another Passport station. And the greens are lawn games area on the south end of the park.
Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and Lisa Moisey's going to kick us off. So go ahead, Lisa.
So thanks everyone for being here today for this tour. We're really excited to kick off Phase 2 of our Fort Missoula Regional Park project. Our grand opening for this is scheduled next week, so we hope you can all make it out here next Thursday from 6 to 10. I wanted to just touch a little bit on the fact that what you're seeing here as part of Phase 2 is part of the city-county partnership for the Fort Missoula Regional Park. And this side here is still under ownership by the county, and you'll start to recognize as you walk around that what this essentially is a remodel of a park that some folks will remember was built in the 1970s, and it hadn't received any significant remodels since then. So this is a fantastic opportunity to bring our facilities up to a modern standard and to expand our services and provide new offerings for the community and the region. So as you walk through, you'll see a completely updated and renovated softball complex that has lights now. So folks can play a little bit later into the evening, which increases the number of games that we can offer. You'll see a playground that's welcoming to everyone in the community. You'll see areas for bocce ball and croquet and expanded services while retaining some of the other facilities and features that people will remember from the old fort before the remodel. What this has done is it's allowed our organizations and groups, our softball for example, to host tournaments now that they haven't otherwise been able to do until this completely remodeled project. So we're excited to show this off to you today and to walk around and share with you our progress.
My name is Donna Gockler. I'm the Director of City Missoula Parks and Recreation. And Lisa just gave you a really good overview of a pretty gosh darn fantastic project. This is something that's been in the works since at least 1994. Acquisition of lands at Fort Missoula Regional Park for playing fields was identified in the 1995 Open Space Bond Project. In 1997, 100 acres were acquired from the University of Montana, which built Phase 1, and includes 17 additional acres to my left here, or to the south. And then, as Lisa explained, the original 63-acre fort. During the process of much public process, which began back in 2000 and went from 2001 all the way into 2002, we developed a master plan for the entire 156-acre park that you see here today. The first 93 acres opened last April, and now on 10 days from today, we will open Phase 2. We're obviously pretty excited after 22 years of planning. No big vision is ever easy, but we know that because it's become a reality for folks and a legacy to our future and our past, that it was well worth the journey. During the 2001 and 2002 public planning process, what we heard from the public is we want the park to be one place. We don't really think it's important if the county or city owns it. What we really like is that there's intergovernmental cooperation and collaboration, because that's the best use of our resources. And that's what we have done. There's all the way through management and recreation program service delivery, throughout construction, design, everything's been a complete partnership. We followed the 2001-2002 planning process with about 6 years of meeting Federal Antiquities Act and gaining SHPO concurrence. We expanded the historic district in 2012 when we completed the design development planning on this portion of the park. What that means is we're interpreting the Civilian Conservation Corps era of history, and on the panel over Lisa's shoulder, you'll see that sports in the Missoula Valley started at the fort. What a fitting concept. The Civilian Conservation Corps era was one of the most important eras in Missoula's history and in our country's history because it happened during the Great Depression. It was one of FDR's programs through the New Deal to bring jobs to working folks, predominantly men, as the primary bread owners of the time. And Fort Missoula was one of the primary deployment centers in the nation for care of federal lands and building Glacier National Park, for example. So the parkitecture that you see in the park resembles the CCC era of architecture. It's the big local timbers, the stone mason work, it's the trees that we've selected and how they've been planted. And so big opportunity for us, because not only are we telling the history of the Missoula Valley, of Fort Missoula, but also the CCC was one of the biggest movements in the park and recreation industry and in our history. So it was an obvious fit for all of us. In 2014, voters countywide approved a $42 million bond. Of that, $3 million is set aside for county trail projects. $1 million has completed the installation of 10 new playgrounds, or 10 replacement playgrounds, I should say. And then $38 million has been expanded in this park, almost equally between the two halves, even though the acres aren't exactly half. The type of infrastructure on this side was slightly more expensive because there's more vertical infrastructure, if you will, more buildings. Before I go too far, I want to make sure that everybody's aware we got a lot of people here that know a lot more than I do about what's going on at the park. We have members from Jackson, or primary contractors. One of the things that we did in the delivery of this project is use an alternative delivery method called Construction Manager at Risk, and I encourage you to talk to Stephen and Terry and Ryan about that in more detail. But what it has done for us is by having Jackson take on the role as CMAR, we were able to break all of the construction projects into small pieces so that our local contractors could afford to bond the projects and meet city and county requirements for procurements, construction, and all those things. And what that meant is that we kept approximately, well, all but 4 or 5 contracts local. So there were over 354 jobs made available to our local contractors. Those that weren't kept local were because we just don't produce or make those things in our valley, like the synthetic turf on Bella Vista or some of the playground equipment. We've used local timbers, local rock, local soils, local seeds, local sod, and local contractors. That rolls over into one of the other really important aspects of this park that's unique to Missoula and quite frankly to Montana. To our knowledge, we're the largest regional developed parks that is trying to attain sites, which is the landscape version of LEED. And so that talks about sustainable site design. Again, you talk about all the local contractors, local materials, the construction methods, the smart use of water, the smart systems for stormwater management as we walk around. We'll try and show you some of those things. Also with us today we have David Selvage. He's representing the Parks Projects team. Neil Miner happens to be out of town. Neil joined us 1 year before this project kicked off, and he has spent his entire career at Parks and Recreation building the biggest project of his life, and I think has done a really great job of that. I want to also give a hats off to the land group and our local engineering firm with DJ&A and Oz. And many others. And then Ryan Uris is here too. He runs this place and makes it work, makes it happen. And I can't say enough about Ryan because he's been working way too many hours, nights and weekends to assure everybody's happiness out here. Anytime you open a new facility like this, it's a brand new ball game. In Parks and Recreation, we go all the way from the idea of vision and acquisition to design, to construction, to maintenance and recreation program delivery and marketing. And so that brings me also to Becky Goodrich. She's here. She'll have a lot of the details for you. So any questions that you may have, we should have the ability to answer that for you today, or if we can't, we'll certainly look up the information and make sure we get everything factual. So the question is what about the economic impacts on Missoula of this park itself? We still don't have all the numbers in. We did some preliminary work with the Institute of Tourism and Recreation Research and with the business school. And really super conservative preliminary numbers just on out-of-town tournaments was over 3.3 million. We know that we far exceeded that. We've already hosted the largest lacrosse, soccer, ultimate, lawn volleyball, rugby international tournament. We've had national conferences, state conferences. We'll be hosting the largest softball tournaments in Missoula's history, and that's without the day-to-day. We have 2 budgets for operational aspects of the fort. One is a city-county partnership for the day-to-day operations for all of the residents countywide who come and visit this park on a regular basis. And as we go through this section of the park, those intimate parks within a park are all about our local residents countywide. The athletic facilities, which occur within a historic, a regional park inside a historic district, are a special feature that's been a huge draw. I can tell you that anecdotally we've heard from users, players, visitors from across the country, the Pacific Northwest, Canada, all of the West, our peer cities throughout Montana, and international teams. Best facility they've played in, not only because the turf or the field or the diamond is great, but because it has everything. It has a playground for their kids, trails for other members of the family, museums to go visit, places to shop and eat. So we know it's big. We haven't completed the studies yet. It's one of the, it was a primary project and initiative of the Missoula Tourism and Business Improvement District, heavily invested in this project. And from what we've heard from the hotels and business sector, very pleased. Otherwise, what we'd like to do is take you to some of the, there's a number of what we call intimate parks within a larger regional park. And the best way I can explain that, which isn't really a great way, is if you think about a mall, there's different plazas in the mall and there's different anchor stores. Well, that's kind of how this park works, only it's all about outdoors and nature connectedness and active lifestyle. So this area is called the Greens. Part of retaining our historic character, we spent a lot of time naming different facilities in the park. The shelter was built under Lisa's leadership and the county park board, and it already adheres or follows a CCC construction plan, architectural design, and so it stayed in place. So this shelter, along with 2 bocce ball courts, 2 horseshoe courts, and green space around us for lawn bowling and croquet, makes up some of the major lawn sports that we wanted available in the area. The bocce ball is a throwback to the Italian attorneys, part of our history out here at the fort. The internment camps were just to the south over here. Croquet is a partnership with our sister city in Palmerston North, New Zealand. And the names that you'll hear through this are in line or themed with the CCC, which during that era was basically a military troop assigned to do conservation work. And so you're going to hear names like the Commons and the Greens and Bella Vista Pavilion and CCC Road, but all of those names play into what we're doing here. Ryan and his team will be programming this area, so it'll be open for regular open play, and then it'll also be open for different kinds of competition. And we expect this to be a heavily used social area. Can you imagine having a company or family picnic out here and having all these different things to do? I'm going to take you on to the twoplex. So behind me is a twoplex. And this is what I would call our recreational warm-up league play diamonds. They'll be open regularly to the public. And pretty soon we're going to head to our north where you'll see the competitive 5-plex. All 7 diamonds meet all ASA, USA regulations. Ryan's reminding me that the leagues have combined. And so we can play junior Olympic softball out here. We can play fast pitch and every different level of slow pitch available, including high school softball. It's just a matter of moving the bases. We have portable fences, so we can bring in the fence lines for junior Olympic softball. So when we did build the athletic complexes within this park, everything meets or exceeds regulation. And it was really designed both with the player and the spectator and their families in mind, because facilities aren't always designed that way. And so from a player's perspective, it's a great surface. The infield material is designed specifically to be forgiving, if you will, to a hard hit ground ball. And sight lines are great. You can see right through this net fabric while it protects you from foul balls. So it's a really good visible sight. Little things like the pavilion we're standing on is it's the shape of a ball. If you look down the pathway that we came up, you'll see that the trees are planted pretty formally on either side of the path. That's a throwback to the CCC style of planting. And the other diamonds will be lit, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about softball when we get over there. As we go, we're going to go past the tennis courts. They've all been resurfaced. There are 8 tennis courts. There are 6 dedicated pickleball courts. And our Zootown pickleball players, and Ryan told me we have the biggest pickleball league in Montana. Doesn't surprise me. And they actively raised more than $70,000 to add 2 courts to the 4 that were already planned in the park. And so hats off to our pickleballers. Well, if any of you have questions, especially for Ryan and David, David's been overseeing startup of all the in-house maintenance. And you also have Terry here with Jackson and Ryan. So
you had a question about the economic benefit.
Yeah.
An additional economic benefit out there is we were not able to host tournaments regularly out here for most sports because of the conditions of our fields. And that means that parents with children that are in competitive sports had to travel. So this is one less travel opportunity for them. That's about $400 to $500 savings just in one event, not having to travel to other community here by having it here. And then of course that means that same $400 or $500 is coming to this community for a weekend event, soccer or lacrosse tournament or what have you. So that's a huge savings. Parents with competitive sports kids and their families.
Yeah.
Huge benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you guys design it in a way to, kind of make tournaments where large numbers of people, families and everything are gathering, kind of make it seamless, like crowd control type stuff?
Yeah. This facility has been designed with adequate parking, with facilities sized to be able to accommodate a couple thousand people or a couple hundred people, depending on what venue or park within a park you're at. And we have 2 exits so we can get people in and out quickly at each facility. The roundabout helps speed traffic on exiting this facility. The restrooms are sized so that we don't have to open up our large toilet facilities for day in and day out use, but for weekend heavy event uses, we can open those up and have more than adequate capacity. Everything right down to the garbage cans have been planned out here to serve events and to be efficient. I think that as an operating facility, this is as efficient as you can get. And in fact, when we share with our maintenance impact statements here, the cost per acre here is way lower than any other site that we have because we're here, we're site-based, we have our recreation crews here, we have all the services and facilities that we need here, and we've designed them to be as low maintenance cost as possible.
David, can you share a couple of examples of things we did in the final design that saves us a lot of money? Saves taxpayers a lot of money.
Taxpayers money. First and foremost, the irrigation system is state-of-the-art. It is designed to put down water exactly where we need it in the right amounts. We have great control over it using the internet. We can turn on various systems. We can take a field out of play, refurbish it, and do all we need to within say a 2 or 3 week window, and then turn it back on and be ready to go again so that it's optimum playing conditions. We have used poured in place playground materials instead of wood chips. Not only is that greatly appreciated by the community that needs greater accessibility, but it is also very low maintenance cost. We sourced all of our materials locally, so we're not having to ship imported materials from other parts of the state. We use used lots of decomposed granite out of Clancy. We used bark chips locally mostly. We have integrated graffiti coating into everything so that if we get tagged, we can get it off quickly. All the site drains appropriately into bioswales, so we don't have to deal with a lot of drains and cleaning drains and things like that. We simply mow. There are so many items in here that you look at this facility here, and it is designed to be maximum enjoyment, minimum cost to maintain. It still costs a lot of money.
So when we added the 93 acres to this 63, those 93 acres increased the developed parks available in the Missoula Valley by 25%, but the increase in maintenance costs only went up 15%. And that's largely due to specific design features that David talks about. So now you are inside the fiveplex. And this was definitely a dream for our softball organizations. And if you played a lot of competitive softball, you know that this facility meets those regional, national competition levels as far as quality. We also staff it or feature a full service grill called Home Plate. And we do have a food services manager, a chef, who helps us maximize benefits through the concessions, both here and at various locations. She also oversees Splash Montana. Those concessions are operated largely as an entrepreneurship to help augment the cost of fees, because what's most important to us in delivery of services is that people get to play and be active. And so we use those concession fees to help hold costs down. Home Plate, the backside, has all the restrooms that we were referencing. David mentioned to you, we can open just a couple of restrooms. We can open the big group size restrooms. Everything meets CPTED in the park, which is crime prevention through environmental design. We pay a lot of attention to view sheds, ability to do maintenance easily and quickly, and making sure that everybody feels welcome, because if we can make the folks that we're serving feel welcome, their very presence reduces the chance of any kind of crime ever taking place in a park. And it's a principle that we adhere to closely. There is a Port and Place playground behind you that's for tots. We'll be adding a sail to that in the next couple of weeks here. We wanted to give parents an opportunity to let their kids play while they're playing ball and doing something active at the same time, and hopefully having a lot of fun. With our vegetation in our beds, we have a mix of water-wise and native plants. A lot of our plants that are in our beds in Phase 2 were actually provided by our own nursery at Parks and Recreation through Conservation Lands program. And so that's helpful, and not only were we planting things that grow well in Missoula, but we had enough time in Phase 2 to actually grow our own stuff in our nursery that comes from some of the other parks and open spaces in the system. I think what I'd like to do next, go ahead, Dave.
You got lighting here. You have state-of-the-art lighting.
Yeah. Thank you.
LED saves a lot of money. I think the payback on that was
3.9 years to increase it to LED lighting.
That's how quickly we can pay back the extra costs, and that will be an ongoing savings for as long as the lights are up. It is all 5 fields are lighted. We can play a lot of extra games without having to have extra fields with lights.
It's good use of land.
Yeah. So huge deal here, and then plus we obviously can play on outfields for other activities if we wish.
Say the cost again for LED lighting versus regular lighting?
It was $200,000 more to go to LED lighting, which is great because it's got cutoff. We've got all the controls. It's even got uplighting for the softball, so the ball player doesn't lose the ball in the darkness. If you've played softball, you know what a big deal that is. And 3.9 years to repay that extra $200,000, as David mentioned. That continues to be a savings to the taxpayer and the user groups forever. Yeah. And before you go, I want you to make sure you visit with Ryan on some of the programs. As he was mentioning as we were walking over, we were using 21 of the 22 available pickleball courts already in our last tournament. So, pretty cool stuff.
Field layouts, 45 field layouts over there on that site this spring alone. Yep. That's 45 different sports being played.
Yeah, basically every square inch of space that we can program over on Phase 1 has been programmed for everything from our local sports that play once a week to major tournaments that have come through Missoula, and some that we even saw the second annual this year. Pretty fun tournaments such as the Intermountain Champions Cup that the Missoula Strikers Association put together, had 65 plus teams both years here in Missoula playing on the Phase 1 fields. We've already hosted 2 softball tournaments here, kind of the ones that break in the facility. We had a senior games tournament third weekend of June, and then we had the Zootown Regional Tournament, Missoula Softball Association's event at the end of June. Had about 40 teams in a couple different divisions. So it's been really neat over the last 2 years to see these 2 phases, all the visionary aspect that Donna's talked about, to see that put to use and to see it be well used and well loved by so many local, regional, and even international participants.
And Ryan, will you share a little bit about senior games and what you've been able to do because of this park?
Sure. So we've been in contact with the official Montana Senior Games, or excuse me, Montana Senior Olympics, and they typically rotate where they host the Senior Olympics every 2 years. They've been up in Polson for the last 2 years, and they've been very interested in coming back to Missoula. And we are going to be able to host many, not quite all, but almost all of the events here at Fort Missoula Regional Park, and also in partnership, hopefully using the track over at Big Sky, and then our 50-meter pool over at Splash, Montana. So that will bring in hundreds of seniors from Montana and surrounding states that are actually allowed to enter the games as well. And it can be, I think every other year, it's a qualifier for the National Senior Olympics. So.
I just wanted to point out a few things that this park project, I think, does well for Greater Missoula and the neighborhoods nearby. So one of there's 2 primary access ways into the park from the urban area, and then of course there's South Avenue going to the west. So you can come in on South Avenue, or you can come in on Post Siding or Old Fort Road. The South Reserve Ped Bridge was installed and opened a year ago in April, and it provides a great non-motorized access to the park. I was sharing with many of you when I came. From McCormick Park to here is a 15-minute bike ride, and I'm going to guess that if I was racing a car today, I probably would have beat them. On trail all the way. Wow. Because we will be opening the last segment of the Bitterroot Trail tomorrow between North and Livingston. But the other thing we've been able to do is connect the South Avenue Trail along South Avenue and make a whole lot of improvements to this parking lot, which is your entrance. All of our entrance points have kiosks, and they also have monument entries that mimic the CCC, or not mimic, but replicate the CCC style. They don't look the same because that's the full intent, is you don't want to copy the old way. You just want to show what it can be like. There's also an interior trail system. Over to my right, you can probably see 2 basketball hoops and some strung from green poles, Edison light bulbs. That area is just getting seeded. It is called our Commons, and it's sort of our social recreation area. We did a workshop with teenagers from the various schools. We met at Porter, and we heard from high school and middle school students, well, what kind of place do you want? And they really wanted a place that they could hang out, do storytelling, have music, be active with long games. We'll have oversized board games, like the Jenga that's, body size, and oversized chess and those kinds of games, as well as golf and bag toss or cornhole or whatever you tend to call those games. As volleyball, basketball, we'll be able to put a food truck over there so we can have a social night. Under the light bulbs, the plaza will be painted. And so that's that area. And then Sergeant Bozo Dog Park, which is the connecting piece between the two halves, will be the last to open. Sergeant Bozo Dog Park will hopefully open later this fall. Sergeant Bozo was a orphaned dog that the CCC troops at Fort Missoula adopted. So we went ahead and named the dog park after Sergeant Bozo. And if you go on the west side of the park, you'll see a panel telling you the history of the dog. It's really cute.
The other thing I want to mention about connectivity and access to the park is this Fort Missoula Regional Park is about a 7-mile bike ride or walk from Lolo, mostly on a shared use path. So if you think about where this park is situated relative to some of our other communities, it's not too far to go from Lolo to the regional park here.
A lot of Lolo residents playing in programs in the park for sure, and camps, and as well as all of the communities within 30 miles. We find that it's not uncommon for people to drive 2 hours to get to this park for a regular basis. Let's see what else. The landscaping in our parking lots, wherever possible, we tried to do sheet flow. You'll see that particularly in the parking lot where we started, so that all the stormwater just runs off into vegetation that helps clear and purify the water before it goes into the gravels and into our aquifer. We did some what I think are kind of cool things with parking lots. We read the code as somewhat malleable, I'll say it that way. And what we did is we created great big planter beds so that we could grow large trees, because ultimately large trees provide much greater benefits in clean air, clean water, shade, aesthetic and cooling, pavement preservation, stormwater management, than a bunch of tiny stick trees that you see in a typical parking lot. And so we tried to do as much as we could to really pay attention to our natural environment, our historic context, and the users at the park. I think with that, let's walk over to, we're going to go to what's called Max Meadow Playground and the Meadowlark Shelter. In case you can't tell from David talking, this is one of our favorite parts of the park. There's a lot going on here. This is Missoula and Missoula's second all-inclusive, all-abilities playground. And it was designed with the same public process, using the same public process and results that brought us Silver Summit Playground. Jenny Montgomery was really helpful in that process. She ran a competition at the University Fine Arts program. The orange bendy poles you see around you were designed by an artist in that program, and her name is Trish. She can't wait to get out here and get to play on her design. I call it the Beetlejuice Forest, and that's what it reminds me of. These Euro balls are a lot of fun. The pathways, so kind of, imagine yourself as a 6-year-old out here, whether you're in a chair with a walker or standing up, whatever it is, crawling. How much fun is this? Or toddlers rolling over these balls, the climbing features, the zip line, all the different kinds of swings. These instruments are actually tuned, so even when they're all bamming on them, it actually sounds like music. I know at Silver Summit I've come into work and thought, who's playing the drums so nice? And it's just a bunch of kids hammering on them, having a blast, and it sounds like music. So really fun. Next door to us is a outdoor fitness center. This is the first one in Missoula. And so you can bring your kids over here to play and then go work out. Ryan's team will also be holding fitness classes over there. We do have a partnership with Community Medical Center and St. Pat's and various docs in the health department around town. We have a prescription trail program. We have yoga in the parks. We have a walk with the doc. I encourage you to talk to Ryan about that here in a minute. Lots of really good health initiated programs, and Ryan has been, through his work, recipient of some national awards, grant awards, because of Missoula's effort to work with the medical field, health field, in providing healthy outdoor places that people can access at no cost. The little cabin down there for kids, that was built by the Missoula College Carpentry School as a donation to the program and a learning opportunity for the students. And then Jackson set it for us. The restroom that you see, again, following that same architecture. Earlier in the day we walked by another restroom. And then there's one more restroom out by the dog park. So we have a mix of vault toilets, flush toilets, and year-round toilets because of the expected use. We spent a lot of time with our community with disabilities. There's little things in these restrooms, like one of them doesn't auto-flush because that's scary to some kids. And so we tried to pay that close attention to those fine details to make sure that this park was really comfortable. These big green poles will host a shade structure. The facilities out here, I mentioned earlier, they have names. This is the Meadowlark Shelter. This is Mac's Playground and Meadow. Mac is named for a spindly calf moose that walked into a CCC camp up in Glacier National Park, and they adopted him, so he became our mascot. The other shelters are called the Bitterroot. And then the indoor facility where we started is the Ponderosa Pine Meeting Room and Plaza. So you got your state tree, state bird, state flower, kind of again recognizing the history that we have here in Montana. The open field is actually intended to be an open field for people, families, friends to come out and play, and not to have every square inch of all of our parcels always programmed and lined for sports. So very intentional in design of that. There's an approximate, if I remember right, about a quarter-mile paved path all around this, fully accessible, so you could do circuit training and either run, wheel, or whatever it is. There's also approximately 7 miles of path in the park, which gets to what Ryan was saying about why we'll be able to host almost every single event like senior games or the Senior Olympics in this park, because we can do it all, if you will. So our grand opening is Thursday, July 26th from 6 to 10 p.m. Home Plate Grill will be open for folks who want to visit that. We'll have a kind of a little treasure hunt so you can visit all the sites. We'll have some performances. The salamanders will be here. All kinds of activities. Think of it a little bit like a kids fest or screen free, added to a whole bunch of additional activities at Fort Missoula. We'll have a ribbon cutting. We're going to honor some of our VIPs who were involved early in the process, honor our sponsors, Jackson, Knife River, Oz, Axis, and one more sponsor. Musco are our major sponsors, and tons of other additional sponsors, all helping to make the event possible. Our community, business community, really excited. And I can't emphasize enough, you know, the park is right on the edge of city-county as you know, lines, if you will. And a lot of times we think about those lines, but we know from past surveys that the park gets equal use by county residents and city residents, and it is in the top 4 parks by both city and county residents as a destination. And that was before we built this park. That was when it was the old 63-acre park. So my guess, same that happened with Playfair when we built Splash, it becomes a pretty popular spot on the regional network of places to go. I think with that, unless you have questions, I'd really like to give Lisa a chance to close a couple of closing comments from the county. And Ryan is a wealth of information on what we've done to date. He's been way too busy, hardly get to see the guy anymore. And remember that our construction team is here, and we've had, you know, we track weather in the park system anyway. Weather impacts Splash like you wouldn't believe. We can go from a $15,000 day to a $3,000 day over clouds and a few temperature degrees. Well, the same thing happens when you're planting grass and trying to lay lines and pour concrete. So we've had 2 years of record or like top 2 or 3 in recorded history. And so you might remember we had about 5 weeks of flooding. What did you guys say, 68? 68 interrupted days of rain just this spring. And so hats off to Jackson and all of the contractors for getting us this far, this fast. I can't say enough about that alternative delivery method of your design team and your contractor and your staff all working together to make it happen for the community and the residents.
Yeah, and I guess I just want to emphasize and reiterate what Donna mentioned about the city-county partnership, that this park is an incredible catalyst to bring in 2 local governments together who are working together to deliver just an amazing, fantastic facility and special place for everyone in the community and visitors, our visitors as well. The other thing that I think is really cool and unique about this place is it's a regional destination. So when families come and folks come from all over to visit the Fort Missoula Regional Park, they can enjoy games, they can play in the park, but it's a stone's throw to our historical museum and to the campus of the Forest Service and so many other historical features, and that makes for a really rich experience, not only for us who live here, but our visitors and our guests. And it's just fantastic to showcase all that here and be able to do your 360 view of this incredible valley.
I could see that she was sad, and so I gave her half a pie. It was a ham and cheese, not her favorite kind. But she was pretty hungry, so she went ahead and ate it. When she was finished, this is what she said. She said, "You get what you get. Don't throw a fit with your car until you have. You know you try, and I know you love your mom and dad. But what you had, you glad, or you over the gap. No, no, do what she did. Give what she did. Do what she did. Do what she did." I got a present for Christmas. I knew what it was. I had a very short wish list. It was just the right shape and just the right size. It was a space funky robot with the X-ray eyes and the coconut ship and the banana blaster. Evil lizard is strong, but space funky is faster. And I knew that once I had it, oh, my life would be great. Just like that kid in the commercial. I just couldn't wait. But when I opened up the box, was what I thought it should be. I hadn't seen it in the stores, I hadn't seen it on TV. It was a toolkit and a coupon to make a tree for with my dad. I knew I should be happy, but I felt so mad. Like, I told my mom that she was mean. To my dad, I never ever happened to do a single thing. Threw the box across the room, and it hit my little sister. As I'm grandma stepped up and said, "Now wait a minute, mister." Yeah. She said,